This will be covering Chapter 8, Cognition and Language. We will be covering in Module 8.1 ways to be able to distinguish between the attentive and pre-attentive processes. We'll be looking at things such as change blindness, as well as other issues that relates to attention. We're going to talk more about attention deficit disorder, as well as learning how to be able to categorize our ways and the effects of the ways we think. All right, so let's get started by talking about research in cognitive psychology. First and foremost, the definition of cognition. This means it's thinking and using knowledge. Cognition starts with attending to something and then categorizing what it is. Research has been able to show and learn through cognitive processes that we basically cannot observe by just measuring the speed and accuracy of responses. It takes a little bit more. In terms of attention, there's some stimuli that'll grab our attention automatically. We call this the bottom-up process, and that's because the peripheral stimuli controls it. So think about magicians. Magicians use this type of tendency. A magician may pull a rabbit or a dove out of a hat, and the surprised viewers will automatically watch the rabbit hop away or the dove fly away. Well, during that brief time, their attention is occupied. So a magician is able to set up the next trick and it'll be totally unnoticed. We can also control our attention by deliberately shifting it from one item to another in what we call a top-down process. Now, to be able to think about this, fixate your eyes on the X that's in the center of this slide, the graphic on the slide. And then, without moving your eyes, go ahead and read the letters in the circle clockwise. As you see, it is possible for you to control your attention without even moving your eyes. Now, to be able to illustrate how an unusual object may draw your attention, find the whooping crane in this picture here on the slide. It's going to be within the flock of sandhill cranes. When anything differs drastically from items around it, basically by size or shape or color or movement, we tend to be able to find that through what we call a pre-attentive process, basically meaning that it stands out immediately. So as you can see, between all those that flock, there's this one white, and because of the white, it drew your attention immediately. Okay. Now in this particular photo or graphic, you'll find that there's a marbled godwit that faces to the right. Now here, you'll have to check each bird separately. The more birds that's present, the longer it's going to take you to be able to figure out the unusual one. You had to rely on an attentive process, one that requires you to search through the items within a particular series. Now, there's much evidence that indicates that attention can be limited, as if there's various items we're trying to get through a bottleneck that permits only a little to pass through at a time. So if 2 or 3 objects flash briefly on a screen, you can kind of identify their colors. So if 6 objects flash on the screen, you still will know the colors of only 2 or 3. You can more effectively attend to a couple of items at the same time if they're not similar to one another. So the apparent reason is that 2 similar items would activate this overlapping type of populations within the neurons of your brain, and therefore it's going to interfere with each other. You can easily do things at once when the 2 activities are really highly compatible, like walking and chewing gum. But people who try to multitask, doing 2 or more unrelated tasks at once, are often going to be more impaired than they realize. So a lot of times people feel that multitasking is the best thing to do, but in reality, if you're doing 5 different things, it'll probably take you longer to complete than if you were doing 5 similar tasks. Even when you're doing only one task, your attention level will vary. While your mind wanders, you're going to be thinking about something that's unrelated to the task, as well as your ability to process that relevant information. It starts to decrease.